while we're speaking of that, do I have a volunteer to light the chalice today? Okay, Karen, thank you. Okay, and then the extinguisher. And then, anybody to pass the plate around? We'll do it. Is there anybody else who would help? Or pass the plate around? Thank you, Nancy. So you two can do that where you
Pass the plate around.
Now, if you're singing at that moment, I will pass the plate around there, okay? Okay, let's follow.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Judy Feel, and I'm the worship leader for this morning. I have some great helpers, so we are in good hands. As you are welcome here. Visitor, friend, or longtime member, you are welcome here. With little children, or your partner, or alone, we joyfully welcome you here. You are welcome here as believer or doubter, as joiner or loner. You are welcome here. Feeling a part of us or not, full of energy or not, seeking a vision or a rest. You are welcome to join us as you are. We acknowledge that we are in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish, Nez Perce, Blackfeet, and Anishinaabe people who shared the Helena Valley as hunting grounds. The indigenous story of the Helena Valley began long before the arrival of Europeans. We honor those who walked here before us. We honor the path they have shown us in caring for this place for generations to come. We strive for justice and fair relations with their descendants. We'll now light the chalice, so will you read with me, please, as Karen lights the chalice. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. The opening song this morning is one I wrote. It's called We're All Welcome on This Earth, and there'll be a little more explanation of it when I do the message.
And the words are in the handout.
You may rise as you're willing and able. the big blue sky. It's not that one of us is all right and one of us is wrong. It's just that we're dancing to different drum beats. Then this is your part. You go. Let's practice that. And if you do it different, then you're just fulfilling the lyrics of the song. We're all dancing to different drum beats. We're all dancing to different drum beats and singing our very own song. Oh, once I had a friend named Rico who didn't like to sit in a chair. He liked to jump up and down, spin all around. He liked to walk like a duck, flap his wings in the air. Oh, Rico, he was a good friend of mine. But sometimes I wondered what was going on in that kid's mind. But we're all welcome on this earth, you and I. Though we're coming from different places, under the big blue sky, it's not that one of us is all right and one of us is wrong. It's just that we're dancing to different drum beats and singing our very own song. Now let me tell you about Alicia. She wears her shirts inside out. She likes to put her pants on backwards, put her hands on her hips and shake it all about. Alicia, she's a good friend of mine, but I can never tell you what's going on in that girl's mind. But we're all welcome on this earth, you and I. Though we're coming from different places, under the big blue sky, it's not that one of us is all right and one of us is wrong. It's just that we're dancing to different drum beats and singing our very own song. Tyrone loves to eat ice cream in a cone. Jack likes his in a cup. Simone loves to dribble water on the table. Jose likes wiping it up. Rosie won't look me in the eye, but she talks to me with her hands. When she puts them close up to her heart, you know I understand. And when I look around me, every kid shines bright as a star. When they dance in the shadows, I know just how beautiful they are. Oh, true friends come in every shape and size, all their colors and their dances help me realize, oh, we're all welcome on this earth, you and I. Though we're coming from different places, under the big blue sky, it's not that one of us is all right and one of us is wrong. It's just that we're dancing to different drum beats. Yes, we're dancing to different drum beats. Try another one. And singing our very own songs. Thank you for joining in, even though probably never heard it before. So Katie will read The Peace of Autumn, and I believe that it's a responsive reading. So if you'll open up to page 540 and Singing the Living Tradition, you will find your italicized part to read.
Okay, again, this is number 540 in Singing the Living Tradition. I will read the normal type, and you can read the italicized. The peace of autumn. Today, the peace of autumn pervades the world. Spreading over the deserted fields to all horizons, its wings of golden green.
Today the thin thread of the river flows without song, leaving no mark on its sandy banks.
The many distant villages bask in the sun with eyes closed in idle and languid slumber. In every speck of dust, in every part of my own body, in the visible and invisible worlds.
In the planets, the sun, and the stars, the joyous dance of the atoms through endless time.
And this is a poem by Rabindranath Tagore.
And now it's the time in our service when we share our public joys and concerns. And remember, there's a time for private joys and concerns after we turn the YouTube channel off. So does anyone have anything to share this morning? A joy or a concern? Okay. You're here.
Good morning. I am concerned for Nikki Twitchell, who in that last rainstorm, her yoga studio flooded. And I was in touch with her this morning, and she said it was entirely preventable, but for the landlord's lack of routine maintenance on the property. So she's mad, rightfully so. Plus, she's had a terrible cold for a week or so. So she's a bit under the weather. So this has been a tough week for her, and I want to hold her in my heart.
I have a joy that we can all be here today.
Karen may have the same joy. Last night, the symphony did just a remarkable job with an all Gershwin, and I see many familiar faces, people that were there last night, and just wishing that the whole congregation had been there. It was just one of those moments where you just felt that joy in your heart, and it was just lovely, and so proud to know that so many people from outside actually clamor to be part of that symphony now. Like, they actually come. I think they said maybe half the symphony auditions from other places just to work with Alan Scott.
I'm sharing a joy of our sister fellowship up in Kalispell, Glacier UU. Just celebrated their 60th year today, so we listened online to the service at 10, and here I am double dosing it. I know, but just, thinking that our liberal tradition and faith and sharing of that is continuing in several communities in Montana, and that is something we should be, both proud of and keep moving it forward.
Thank you, Linda, for that reminder. I'd forgotten. But coming soon, a group of us has started what we call the Montana Unitarian Universalists, otherwise known as MUU. And what we're doing is community building amongst our 5 congregations in the state. And the first thing we're going to do on September 25th is have a Zoom meeting of all the boards of the 5 congregations. And we're working towards a fall retreat in September of 2025, which will be held here, wherein all the congregations in the state will be invited. So we're just kicking it off on the 25th, and we're starting to build relationships amongst the boards of each fellowship.
Good. Anything else? Well, thank you. And those unspoken joys and concerns we will hold in our hearts. So next is our offering, and we thank you for your gifts this day and the gifts of action that make this community possible. If you are visiting, please remain our guest, and your presence is your gift to us. So whoever is coming to pass the plate may come and pass the plate. People are feeling shy today? That's okay. Oh, good. Thank you. It's nice not to be alone up here. Thank you. Okay. So the story, oh, okay. Come on up, Harrison. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So this morning's story is called My Name is Yun. And that is a name of a person who's from another country, but the author and the illustrator, I'm going to be struggling with their names. It's written by Helen Rekorvitz and pictures by Gabby Swietkowska. I hope I said that right. And it's dedicated for Yoon, to Linda and Michael as well. Isn't that a funny picture of her? Is that a cupcake? But you'll find out about that in the story. So there's the picture of her there, and here it is here. My name is Yoon. I came here from Korea, a country far away. Do you folks know where Korea is? You do? So it was not long after we settled that my father called to talk to me. So here's a picture of her talking to her father. Soon you will go to a new school. You must learn to print your name in English, he said. Here, this is how it looks. And so if you see it, you could read it, right? I wrinkled my nose. I did not like Y-O-O-N. Lines, circles, each one standing alone. My name looks happy in Korean, I said. The symbols dance together. And this is Yoon's name in Korean. Okay. And in Korean, my name means shining wisdom. I like my Korean way much better. Well, you must learn to write your name this way. Remember, even when you write in English, it still means shining wisdom. So she and her father sit at the table and practice. But I did not want to learn the new way. I wanted to go back home to Korea. I did not like America. Because change is hard, we all know that. And things that are familiar are more comfortable. I did not like America. Everything was different here. My father handed me a pencil. His eyes said, "Do as I say." He showed me how to print every letter in the English alphabet. So I practiced, and my father was pleased. "Look," he said to my mother, "see how well our little Yoon does?" "Yes," she said, "she will be a wonderful student." I wrinkled my nose. That's pretty good, pretty mild-mannered for resistance. So my first day at school, I sat quietly at my desk while my teacher talked about cat. She wrote cat on the chalkboard. She read a story about cat. I did not know what her words meant. But I knew the pictures and what they said, and she sang a song about cat, and it was a pretty song, and I tried to sing the words too. Later, she gave me a paper with my name on it. "Name, Yoon," she said, and she pointed to the empty lines underneath. I did not want to write Yoon. I wrote cat instead. I wrote cat on every line. Cat, cat, cat. I wanted to be a cat. I wanted to hide in a corner. My mother would find me and cuddle up close to me, and I would close my eyes and mew quietly. The teacher looked at my paper. She shook her head and frowned. "So you're a cat?" she asked. The ponytail girl sitting behind me giggled. After school, I said to my father, "We should go back to Korea. It's better there." "Do not talk like that," Father said. America is your home now. But here's that very kind teacher looking over what Yoon is doing. Just trying to figure it out. I sat by the window and watched a little robin hop, hop, hop in the yard. He's all alone too, I thought. He has no friends, no one likes him. And then I had a very good idea. If I draw a picture for the teacher, then maybe she'll like me. And she drew this picture. It was the best bird I'd ever drawn. "Look, Father," I said proudly. "Oh, this makes me happy," he said. "Now do this." And he showed me how to print bird under the picture. The next day at school, the teacher handed me another yun paper to print. But I did not want to print yun. I wrote bird instead. I wrote bird on every line. Have you ever felt like that? I'm not going to admit it today. Okay. I wanted to be a bird. I wanted to fly back to Korea. I would fly to my nest and I would tuck my head under my little brown wing. The teacher looked at my paper. Again, she shook her head. "So you are bird?" she asked. When I showed her my special robin drawing, I patted my red dress, and then I patted the red robin, and I lowered my head and peeked up at her. And the teacher smiled. "How was school today, my daughter?" my mother asked. "I think teacher likes me a little." Lost my place, sorry. "Well, that is good," mother said. "Yes, but in my school in Korea, I was my teacher's favorite. I had many friends, and here I am all alone." "You must be patient with everyone, including yourself," my mother said. "You will be a fine student, and you will make many friends here. But it's hard to be patient." The next day at recess, I stood near the fence by myself, and I watched the ponytail girl sitting on the swing, and she watched me too. Suddenly, she jumped off the swing and ran over to me, and she had a package in her hand. The wrapper said, "Cupcake." She opened it and gave me one, and she giggled, and I giggled too. And when we were back in school, the teacher gave us more printing papers. I did not want to write yun, so I wrote cupcake instead. This next part's a pretty good fantasy. I wanted to be a cupcake. The children would clap their hands when they saw me, and they would be excited. "Cupcake," they would say. "Here's Cupcake." Flying around on the clouds. The teacher looked at my paper. "And today you are Cupcake?" she said, and she smiled a very big smile. Her eyes said, "I like this girl, Yun." And after school, I told my mother about my ponytail friend, and I sang a new song for my father, and I sang in English. "You make us so proud, little Yun," my mother said. Maybe America will be a good home, I thought. Maybe different is good too. The next day at school, I could hardly wait to print. And this time I wrote Yun on every line. And when my teacher looked at my paper, she gave me a big hug. "Ah, you are Yun," she said. Yes, I am Yun. The end. Thank you for listening so well.
Thank you, Marianne. Marianne actually brought that book to me, wondering if I wanted to use it for the children's message for today, and I thought, good idea. In fact, it kind of changed my whole message, parts of it, which is appropriate since the title of my message is Impermanence. So I had a lot of time to think about change and impermanence. When I volunteered first to lead today's service, I decided to lead songs which focus on change and impermanence. I'm passing around, because it's autumn, I'm going to have Karen and Ken, I think, well, actually maybe Katie will do it, pass around some beautiful early fall leaves that I collected on the trip that Katie and I took this August to Michigan, the Upper Peninsula. The leaves, the early leaves that were falling were already showing the colors that aren't masked by the green. If you want to take one, you may. I won't consider it stealing because I don't know what to do with them when I go home anyway, except put them in that little box. I put those leaves in books sometimes when I'm away, and then when I come home and later take the book out, there's the leaf. It still has its color, but it's crumpled. It's changed. So change is in the air. It can be beautiful, or it can be unsettling. Rapid climate change, the roller coaster of this election cycle, ongoing global politics, it's all enough to give us a dose of motion sickness. Katie and I will soon be leading art and music activities with the refugees who have been brought to Helena by HART, Helena Area Refugee Resettlement Team. Talk about change and impermanence. At least 117 million people around the world have been forced to flee their homes. It's hard to take that number in, isn't it? 117 million people in flux. There are nearly 43 million refugees today, and around 40% of them are under the age of 18. War, climate change. Can you imagine being brought here to Montana from the mountains of Afghanistan or from the Democratic Republic of the Congo? The Congolese families have most recently been living at a refugee camp in Tanzania. Thanks, Ken and Karen. And if you want to look at these again later, whatever's left, feel free. The Congolese families have most recently been living at a refugee camp in Tanzania, some for 25 years or more. Most of the children will come here with absolutely no knowledge of this place and no English words with which to communicate. They know change and impermanence. And they are constantly learning how to live with the changes in their lives. The song we began the service with today is one I wrote with my friend Bev Kennick for the camp she founded for families of children with autism. The families I met on those weekend camps live with major changes of uncertainty and change every day. The story for all ages is a reminder of how much courage, resilience, and strength it takes for children and their families to make changes. We are all welcome on this earth. And we all live with constant change. Sometimes change is difficult, but sometimes it's just what we need to move forward. If life consisted of the same things over and over, we probably wouldn't like that much. Luckily, it's full of change. One of the laws of aesthetics is repetition and contrast. We see it in art and hear it in music all the time. It works. Those of us who went to the symphony last night witnessed how George Gershwin was a master lyricist and composer. Surprise is a key element for him. Change. Of course, I looked up impermanence and change on the internet. Heraclitus is credited with saying, "The only constant in life is change. All things pass and nothing stays the same. Existence is like the flow of a river. You could not step twice into the same river." Benjamin Franklin said, when you're finished changing, you are finished. Have you ever heard politicians are like diapers? They need to be changed often and for the same reasons? Apparently, Mark Twain didn't say that, but he is credited with it. We are fascinated by change, and we often welcome it. My friend Linny often quotes a contemporary song by Island Jules saying, "There's only one constant in this old world, that nothing ever stays the same." I know plenty of songs about change. Phil Oakes wrote, "The world's spinning madly, it drifts through the dark, swims through a hollow of haze, a trip around the stars, a journey through the universe ablaze with changes." And Joni Mitchell wrote, "And the seasons, they go round and round. The painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round and round in the circle game." Last Sunday, our worship service began with a hymn that's a favorite of UU's, "Enter, Rejoice, and Come In." The fourth verse is, "Don't be afraid of some change." Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. The song prescribes joy as the way to overcome our fears about change. We feel transformed when we sing, "I Still Have Joy." Kamala Harris brings up joy a lot these days in her speeches. She knows it is an antidote to fear. Joy neutralizes fear in much the same way that gratitude dissolves anger. So back to the subject of impermanence and the human experience of change. In 1992, Pete Seeger quoted some words from the book of Ecclesiastes in his well-known musical plea for world peace. "Turn, turn, turn" ended up being a folk rock hit when it was recorded by the Byrds in 1995. I've always loved that song and been both appreciative of it and mystified by some of the lyrics. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. In 2006, when I was on staff at the Russell Lockwood Leadership School, one of the attendees asked me as a resident musician to lead Turn, Turn, Turn for a worship service. I said I'd be happy to, but I also knew that I had a long-standing minor uneasiness with the song as Pete Seeger had written it. The lyrics and subjects all went by too fast for me. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal. I actually wanted more time to feel those feelings. I wanted to sit with all those subjects. So I went back to the source, the book of Ecclesiastes, to see what I might do. I found the line, "Whatever God does endures forever," in chapter 3, verse 14, and went with it. Unitarian Universalism doesn't require that we believe in God. In fact, many of us probably come here on Sunday mornings because we don't have to believe in God to worship together. But the more I thought about singing the line, "Whatever God does endures forever," the more I liked it, especially because it enabled me to make the groups of lyrics come out even with my new melody, and thus finish the song. "Whatever God does endures forever" is number 37 in the Open Your Heart songbook. I invite you to sing along if you'd like, or if you'd prefer, just sit back, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and meditate on the words. Go ahead and feel what each of the words evokes in you. As I play the guitar and Mackenzie and I sing, we'll be imagining everyone's thought bubbles. To everything there is a season, to every purpose there is a time, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, and a time to heal, and a time to every purpose under heaven, to everything there is a season, to every purpose there is a time, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to tear down, a time to build, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance. There is a time to every purpose under heaven, to everything. There is a season to every purpose. There is a time to everything. There is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to scatter stones, a time to gather those stones, a time to embrace, a time to be far from embraces, a time to seek, and a time to lose. There is a time to every purpose under heaven, to everything. There is a season to every purpose. There is a time to everything. There is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to keep, a time to cast away, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to be silent, and time to speak. There is a time to every purpose under heaven, to everything. There is a season to every purpose. There is a time to everything. There is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to love, a time to hate, a time of war, a time of peace. Whatever God does endures forever. There is a time to every purpose under heaven, to everything. There is a season to every purpose. There is a time. Whatever God does endures forever. There is a time to every purpose under heaven, to everything.
to every purpose. There is a time. Whatever God does endures forever. There is a time to every purpose under heaven.
So on the subject of impermanence, change. As much as we'd like things to stay the same, we'd probably better admit it just ain't gonna happen. Change is inevitable. Even Joni Mitchell told us that. So can we be comfortable with that? Can we accept it? Meanwhile, back at the internet, Arapaho Tim has this to say on his blog. One constant since the beginning of time might be change. However, the fear of change is also a constant. Since times immemorial, humans have liked routine. It makes us feel in control of our lives. When that fear of change becomes irrational, our ability to control it becomes a phobia, particularly, this is a new word to me, let's see if I can pronounce it, metasthesiophobia. A metasthesiophobe feels they have no control over their lives due to constant change. Metasthesiophobes tend to live in the past and are unwilling to progress, which often leads to depression, which can seriously impact their professional or personal lives. And if a society or country rejects change, there is no growth, no progress. The inability to change, progress, or grow can result in stagnation. Stagnation rejects realizing one's full potential. Stagnation is not a healthy flowing river. It is an idle and stale pond. So, isn't Arapaho Tim, wasn't that what a find? So I hope you will join me as we embrace change and enjoy impermanence. Whether through focused attention or the grace of God, we can learn to accept the things we cannot change, summon the courage to change the things we can, and find the wisdom to know the difference. So go ahead and play with me on this one. I'll play it on guitar. Mackenzie will sing. No, not that. No, I think this is the, oh, I see, I put the, yeah, okay, let's just go with what it says in the program. Silent meditation. I invite you all to meditate in silence. Marianne will bring the mic around if some of you have reflections you'd like to share.
just thinking it's amazing how music brings up feelings and emotions and change in your life. And I just was surprised how moved I was from the music.
That was one of the reasons I wanted Judy to start out the year, because her services with the music are so profound.
Thanks for the reminder, Judy. I find that I get involved in my own plans and I'm moving strongly forward, and then vectors of difference and change come into my life, and it can destabilize me and make me very emotional. And to be reminded in the big picture that we're just little parts of a big moving thing and never the final word. So I appreciate the reminder.
I'm struggling a little bit with trying to figure out if whatever God does endures forever, and yet everything is change. What is enduring forever? And maybe what God does is change, because that's the only thing, after listening to all this, that seems to endure forever. And so my thoughts were a little discombobulated. And then I was thinking back to your children's story and the story you told about the refugees. Elliot was part of the group of seniors at the high school that were supposed to do the orientation for the incoming freshmen. And he had 2 of the Congolese refugees in his orientation group, a brother and a sister, and neither of which spoke any English. They spoke Swahili because they had grown up in Tanzania. As you said, they had lived their entire lives in a refugee camp in Tanzania. But he came home after the orientation day, and he had these great stories, because the Helena High kids had all pulled out their phones and gotten Google Translate up and running, Swahili to English and vice versa. And then they had picked all games that didn't really require a lot of language. They had to build a tower out of raw spaghetti and stuff like this. And they had had a blast, and he had all these great pictures of these kids with all the, Helena High kids in this orientation. And so maybe the kids like Yun and like these Congolese kids are the way to both embrace change and have it endure forever. I don't know.
Good wrap up.
Thank you for service. That was wonderful. Just thinking of the peacefulness that this service helped me to feel, and how I correlate that to the right to stillness and being, without blame, without prejudice, transcendence, and peace, shanti. And then in the thinking of the change, and the Sanskrit term tapas is the translation for a practice of change, and how that helps me to think of Gandhi saying, "Be the change," and Thich Nhat Hanh in his prayer, which seems similar to our last prayer of the service, the Serenity Prayer. And then how that helps me to think of the Sanskrit term Ishvara Pranidhana, which can be translated as faith. So thank you, Judy.
Okay, one more.
When I first met Ken, one of the big words that hit me square in the face was that we are co-creators with whoever God is, or whatever you want to call it, the creative force, we create with. And so that makes sense when I think about how we can be the change that we want to see. We can actually envision it and make it happen.
Okay, and now we go to a reading.
Open your Singing the Living Tradition book to number 555, please. And I will be reading the normal text, and you will answer with the italicized. This is called Some Things Will Never Change, and it is by Thomas Wolfe. Some things will never change.
Some things will always be the same.
The voice of forest water in the night, a woman's laughter in the dark, the clean, hard rattle of raked gravel, the cricketing stitch of midday in hot meadows, the delicate web of children's voices in bright air.
These things will never change.
The glitter of sunlight on roughened water, the glory of the stars, the innocence of the morning, the smell of the sea in harbors.
These things will always be the same.
The feathery blur and smoky buddings of young boughs, and something there that comes and goes and can never be captured, the thorn of spring, the sharp and tongueless cry.
These things will never change.
The leaf, the blade, the flower, the wind that cries and sleeps and wakes again, the trees whose stiff arms clash and tremble in the dark, and the dust of lovers long since buried in the earth.
All things belonging to the earth will never change.
All things proceeding from the earth to seasons, all things that lapse and change and come again upon the earth, these come up from the earth that never changes. They go back to the earth, and that lasts forever.
Only the earth endures, but it endures forever.
The tarantula, the adder, and the asp will also never change.
Pain and death will always be the same.
But under the pavements trembling like a pulse, under the buildings trembling like a cry, under the waste of time, under the hoof of the beast, above the broken bones of cities, there will be something growing like a flower.
Something bursting from the earth again, forever deathless, faithful, coming to life again, like April.
Number 48, the Serenity Prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and the courage, the courage, the courage, the courage, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom, the wisdom, the wisdom, the wisdom, the wisdom to know the difference. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and the courage, the courage, the courage, the courage, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom, the wisdom, the wisdom, the wisdom, the wisdom to know the difference. So we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
So before we turn the YouTube channel off, are there any announcements that the congregation as a whole needs to hear? Okay, well, I'll start here and go back.
Well, this was in the email announcements, but I just wanted to invite people to come to the Halter Museum on Saturday. This coming Saturday, the 21st, I will be sharing some reflections and leading discussion about two of the really wonderful, but I think under-recognized artists who have work in the Halter Museum of Art collection, and these are Francis Enska and Jesse Wilbur. I believe it starts with a social hour at 5 and the talk is at 6, but I'm not, I don't.
It's in the written announcements.
It's in the email announcements, yeah. So anyway, look forward to seeing some of you there.
So I have a big topic on my mind as we begin our new liturgical year, and that has to do with volunteerism. As we all have signed our pledges for the previous year and previous years, in addition to our financial support of this fellowship, we have agreed to supply time, treasure, and talent. And that translates into all the things that need to do to keep our fellowship rolling. And as you know, until very recently, and not quite happening yet, we have finally hired an administrator. And I think that's going to help a lot. But we still are a lay-led congregation, and we rely on each other for things to come to pass. And I have a little tiny list here of some of the things that require more or less immediate attention. For instance, we have our coffee every Friday afternoon between 2 and 4, to which everyone is invited. And we have had the fortune of having regular locations for that. and we are facing now some change. Change! And through various circumstances, we don't have reliable meeting places for the coming months. And we've got some entertaining ideas that will come into play, and you'll hear about it this week in the weekly announcements. But keep in mind, if you would like to host coffee, the book is open. Additionally, here's something that hits pretty close to our stomachs. In the past year, we have been used to Pat Sandon providing us with basically a light lunch after every service. She did that as part of her pledge to our congregation last year, and she said this year she would not do the whole 9 yards, but she would do the coffee part. And then last week at the Palestine talk, she was my primary right-hand person, which also included her right shoulder. And she had had a shoulder replacement surgery in May, and she overdid it. Her doctor slapped her wrist and said, "You must calm down, not work so hard, and go back to PT." So Pat regretfully resigned from coffee service after church this year. And we think what we're going to do is just carry around the clipboard and sign people up to host coffee every week, as we have done previously. And so that will be coming, and I don't think we're passing a clipboard today because nobody volunteered to do it. So you can see things are moving ahead, and you are needed.
Okay. And I would just like to say it is so nice to see everybody after the summer hiatus, but we have new faces here. So after you touch base with the folks that you really love to see if you could reach out to some of the newer faces and say hey and introduce yourself if you would. Okay. Off with the